Your Drake Vulture costs 1.2 million a UEC. The insurance claim fee, 60,000 credits every single time it decides to materialize halfway through solid concrete. Right now, thousands of salvage operators across the verse are watching their ships spawn directly into hangar floors like some kind of twisted magic trick. What you're about to learn will save you more money than a perfect Quantanium run, and nobody's talking about the real cause behind this mess. Do you see? You've been grinding box missions for weeks, finally saved enough for that vulture you've been dreaming about. You're ready to start your salvage empire, maybe even quit your day job hauling medical supplies between Crusader and ArcCorp. Then reality hits. Your brand new ship spawns inside the floor, again and again. The insurance company starts sending you passive-aggressive messages about unusual claim frequency. Most players just accept this as another Star Citizen quirk. You know, like how elevators sometimes launch you into orbit or how your coffee cup phases through the table. But here's what the community doesn't realize. This isn't random. There's a specific sequence of server communications happening behind the scenes, and once you understand it, you can manipulate it. The difference between losing 60K in insurance claims and having your ship spawn perfectly every single time comes down to understanding how CIG's hangar allocation system actually works. The floor spawning phenomenon happens because Star Citizen's backend treats ship spawning and hangar initialization as separate processes.
No way!
Think of it like ordering food delivery to a house that's still being built. The delivery driver shows up, but there's no front door yet. Your ship gets the spawn command while the hangar is still running its setup sequence, collision detection, lighting systems, atmospheric processors, the whole 9 yards. In technical terms, the ASOP terminal sends a spawn request to the entity component system, which then has to coordinate with the physics grid manager and the hangar's local object container. When these systems aren't synchronized properly, your ship materializes before the hangar floor registers as a solid surface.
Fuck.
Most tutorials tell you to wait longer or try a different server. That's like treating a broken bone with aspirin. You're addressing symptoms while the underlying timing issue continues to wreck your gameplay experience. The real problem? CIG designed the lobby terminals to prioritize speed over reliability. They'll spawn your ship immediately, even if the hangar isn't ready. Meanwhile, the terminals inside hangars run additional verification checks. Different code paths, different results. Every Star Citizen player has developed their own cargo cult rituals around ship spawning. Some people swear by logging out and back in. Others claim certain landing zones are cursed. You've probably seen forum posts about clearing your shader cache or verifying game files. None of that addresses the core issue. The lobby ASOP terminals operate on what developers call optimistic spawning. They assume everything will work out fine and send the spawn command immediately. It's like jumping off a cliff and hoping someone builds a bridge before you hit the ground. The hangar terminals, however, use defensive spawning. They actually check if the destination is ready first. During the 3.18.1 patch, CIG modified the spawn timing to reduce server load. Sounds great in theory. In practice, it created a race condition where ships spawn faster than hangars can initialize. The Vulture, with its unique landing gear configuration and larger collision mesh, became particularly vulnerable to this timing issue. Other Drake ships like the Cutlass and Herald experience similar problems, but the Vulture's specific dimensions make it fall through floors more consistently. You can actually see this happening if you know what to look for. When you request a ship from the lobby, watch the hangar marker on your mobiglass. If it's bouncing around erratically, that's the server trying to place your ship in a space that isn't fully loaded yet. The physics engine is literally fighting with the hangar initialization system. Maybe you've developed your own workarounds. Perhaps you only spawn ships at certain times of day when servers are less loaded. Or you've memorized which hangars at each landing zone seem more reliable. Some players have given up on Drake ships entirely, convinced they're just poorly designed. The community has been fragmenting into different camps. The "it's just alpha" crowd, the CIG needs to fix this group, and the "here's my weird group ritual that sometimes works" faction. But what if the solution isn't about finding the perfect server or the right time of day? What if it's about understanding the system well enough to force it to work correctly every single time? The breakthrough came from understanding how hangar allocation actually works. When you request a ship from the lobby, the server has to assign you a hangar, initialize that hangar's systems, then spawn your ship. 3 separate processes that should happen sequentially but often overlap chaotically. Here's the key insight. You can force proper sequencing by making the server allocate and initialize your hangar before you ever request your actual ship. Request any small ship first. Doesn't matter what, an Aurora, a Pisces, whatever you've got. The server assigns you a hangar and runs through the full initialization sequence. Then immediately store that ship. The hangar stays allocated to you, but now it's fully initialized and ready. This technique emerged from the competitive racing community, where pilots need their ships to spawn perfectly every time. No room for error when you're trying to qualify for events or set personal records. They discovered that the dummy spawn method gives them 100% reliability, even during peak server hours. The beauty of this approach is that it works regardless of server population, time of day, or which landing zone you're at. You're not fighting the system anymore. You're working with it. The server gets to complete its hangar initialization process without the pressure of an immediate ship spawn, and you get a guaranteed working hangar for your actual ship. There's this moment every Star Citizen player knows intimately. You've been planning a big operation, maybe a group salvage run to a fresh wreck site, or you're meeting up with your org for some serious mining. Everyone's counting on you to bring the Vulture because you're the designated salvage expert. You get to the hangar, call your ship, and watch in horror as it spawns directly into the floor. The embarrassment hits first, then the frustration. Your friends are waiting, the wreck site might get picked clean by other players, and you're stuck dealing with insurance claims and respawn timers. You start making excuses about server issues while secretly wondering if you should have bought a different ship. That exact scenario played out during last year's Jumptown event. Picture a dozen ORG members ready for coordinated salvage operations on all the destroyed ships around the facility. The Vulture owner, let's call them the hero of this story, couldn't get their ship to spawn properly. 3 attempts, 3 insurance claims, and the entire operation was falling behind schedule. Out of desperation, they tried something different. Spawned their starter Aurora first, immediately stored it, then went to the hangar and requested the Vulture from the terminal there. Perfect spawn. The relief was palpable, but more importantly, they'd stumbled onto a systematic solution. Word spread through the organization, then to other groups, and eventually became standard procedure for anyone flying problematic ships. The rabbit hole goes deeper when you start examining how different landing zones handle hangar allocation. Lorville's hangars use a newer allocation system implemented in patch 3.17, which explains why they're more reliable. Area 18 still runs on legacy code that's more susceptible to timing issues. New Babbage sits somewhere in the middle, with decent reliability but occasional hiccups during peak hours. Understanding these differences lets you adapt your strategy. At Area 18, you might need to wait an extra few seconds between storing your dummy ship and requesting your real one. At Lorville, the process works almost instantly. Port Olisar, being the oldest station, has its own quirks. Sometimes you need to request and store 2 dummy ships before the hangar properly initializes. For players who've moved beyond basic ship ownership into serious fleet management, there's an advanced technique called hangar priming. Before logging off, spawn and store a small ship at each location where you regularly operate. When you log back in, those hangars are already allocated and initialized, ready for immediate use. It's like having reserved parking spaces across the galaxy. The economic impact of mastering these techniques extends beyond just avoiding insurance fees. Reliable ship spawning means you can commit to time-sensitive contracts without worrying about delays. Salvage opportunities don't wait around, and neither do lucrative cargo runs. The difference between a successful operation and a missed opportunity often comes down to whether your ship spawns correctly on the first try. The Star Citizen community has developed an entire folklore around ship spawning rituals. There's the elevator dance, where players believe riding the elevator up and down helps. The terminal shuffle involves switching between different ASOP terminals. Some players swear by specific key combinations or mouse-clicking patterns. These cargo cult behaviors emerge because players are desperate for control over an unpredictable system. When someone's ritual occasionally works, they become convinced it's the solution. The community fragments into different schools of thought, each with their own elaborate procedures and superstitions. Meanwhile, the actual solution, understanding the underlying hangar allocation system, gets buried under layers of folk wisdom and placebo effects. The racing community figured it out because they approach problems systematically, testing variables and measuring results. The general player base tends to rely more on anecdotal evidence and shared frustration. Recent discussions on Spectrum have started acknowledging the dummy spawn method, but there's still resistance from players who've invested heavily in their own rituals. Change is hard, especially when you've convinced yourself that your elaborate 12-step process is the reason your ship occasionally spawns correctly. Here's your step-by-step process for guaranteed ship spawning, refined through months of testing across different servers and landing zones. Start at any ASOP terminal in the main spaceport area, not inside a hangar. Request the smallest, cheapest ship in your fleet. Aurora, Pisces, Mustang, doesn't matter as long as it's small and fast to spawn. Wait for the terminal to confirm the ship is on pad or show similar ready status. This usually takes 10 to 15 seconds, but don't rush it. Immediately store that same ship using the exact same terminal. Don't move to a different terminal, don't go to your hangar, store it right there. The system will show the ship as stored, and you now have a fully initialized hangar allocated to your account. Take the elevator to your hangar level. You should see your hangar number displayed in the door accessible. Enter your hangar and locate the ASOP terminal inside. This is crucial. Do not go back to the lobby terminals.
Failure to do so will result in your suspension.
Request your actual ship from the hangar terminal. The spawn process should complete normally, with your ship appearing properly on the hangar floor instead of embedded in it. Wait for any hangar animations to complete before approaching your ship. If you're dealing with particularly stubborn ships or problematic servers, add a 5 to 10 second pause between storing your dummy ship and requesting your real one. This extra buffer ensures the hangar initialization fully completes before the next spawn sequence begins. For players operating multiple ships or managing org fleets, you can prime multiple hangars by repeating this process with different small ships, then storing them all before requesting your primary vessels. The difference between a frustrated player constantly dealing with insurance claims and someone who reliably gets their ships spawned correctly comes down to understanding these systems instead of fighting them. Test this method with your own problematic ships and see the difference it makes to your daily gameplay routine. Drop a comment about which ships give you the most spawning trouble and whether this technique solved your problems. If you're managing an org fleet or helping new players get started, share this video. Reliable ship spawning is one of those fundamental skills that dramatically improves the Star Citizen experience, but rarely gets proper attention in tutorials. Understanding Star Citizen's quirks and working with them instead of against them transforms this game from a source of constant frustration into something genuinely enjoyable. Next week, we'll dive into the cargo refactor changes and how they're affecting trade route profitability, including some routes that most players don't know exist yet. The floor spawning bug will eventually get fixed, probably when CIG overhauls the entire hangar system for the next major patch. Until then, you've got the tools to make it irrelevant. Your ships will spawn correctly, your operations will run on schedule, and you can focus on the fun parts of Star Citizen instead of wrestling with broken game mechanics.